Sometimes we want to format our output. You cannot format input, and you cannot format something inside the machine. You have no control over how something is stored within the machine. But you can format the way that your output looks. You can determine the way your output looks. Here we're going to take some input, so I need a scanner, and I'm going to input a double. So I'm going to ask my user for a double, a whole number, and next double gives me a number, and it puts it into this variable called num. Let me comment out these two lines. So I've taken in my input, and now I'm going to output my number. 4.4. There we go. What happens if I input an integer? It will output it as its double because I said double, I gave it an integer, it converted it to a double, and it output it as a double. What happens if I say 0.5? Again, it outputs it as 0.5. So the default output is to put a digit in front of the decimal point and at least one digit after it. So if, for example, I say 0.50, it'll still give me 0.5, and it loses the 0 after the 0.5. And you might say, well, that's fine. What do I care? I care because sometimes when I'm dealing with dollars and cents, the cost of something, I want to output 2 places after the decimal point. I want it to be $0.50, so I want it 0.50. So how am I going to do that? I use decimal format. In order to use decimal format, I have to import decimal format. So java.text.decimal format, note the uppercase F. And I declare something. This df is just a name, but it's a type decimal format. So I am creating a decimal format. This is what I created, and I said at most 3 places before the decimal point and at most 2 places after. And I actually have to use it in an output line, and this is how I use it. df.format, and this is my num, this is my number. So this syntax is something that you just have to remember, or in my case, I just copy it from another program. But you will need this in the next few homeworks when you are talking about, when you are calculating the price of something. So let's see what this does now. At most 3 before the decimal point, at most 2 after. So I'm putting a whole bunch of things after the decimal point, and you will see that it actually rounded it up. If I and here it rounds it down, so it rounds it to the nearest number, but it does give you 2 places after the decimal point. Well, what happens if then it's 3.5? Oh, it didn't give me 3.50. And that's because it gives you at most 2 places after the decimal point. But I wanted 3.50. So I changed this decimal format to 00. And now when I run it, 3.5, now it will give me the 0. So if this was $3.50, it's giving me the 0. Why don't we just put zeros everywhere? $3.5. And this is why, because it'll give me leading zeros. So I want at most 3 before the decimal point. I want very definitely 2 after the decimal point. So if I put a 4 in here and I get 4.00. Without the decimal format, it just gave me 4.0. That's coming from this output line here. But with the decimal format, it's giving me 4.00. So this is the decimal format that you usually use when you're dealing with dollars and cents. Download the program, play around with it for yourself so that you understand how this works.